San Diegans accomplish great things every day. We care about our neighbors and our community. We are proud of our diversity. We are resilient. We hold our leaders accountable. We live in one of the most dynamic cities in America, the San Diego Union-Tribune, telling San Diego's story for more than 150 years.
Welcome to the San Diego Union-Tribune's Festival of Books. I'm Tomas Martinez. Tonight, or today, depending on when this is for you, I'll be reading from my first book, Hustle, my second book, Post-Traumatic Hood Disorder. I'm a San Diego native. I currently live in New York City, in Brooklyn, but I was born and raised in San Diego, so Hustle and parts of post-traumatic hood disorder are based in San Diego. So the first poem that I will read is how the book begins. I have a long sequence in the beginning of the book. It's called Calaveras, so it's part one. A car wants to be stolen, as the night desires to be revved. We'll leave a door unlocked, a key in the wheel well, or designedly dropped from a visor. A window will always wink to be broken by bits of spark plug, or jimmied down the glass. This is mine. Where is the window to break in your life? In a backyard off the 94, I demonstrate on the moon how a dent-pulled ignition and a toothbrush for a turned key easily swoon the inner workings of a Ford. Push the dent puller in, turn the triangle, burrow the screw. A metallic light falls in swirled shavings. Before I snap the weight, I say, nobody gets caught with this, not because this is a felony. We speak of prison inevitably, as likely as sweeps and raids, as common as falling. Prison, for us, taxes and deaths. Nobody gets caught with this because I took it from my grandfather's tools. To shoot someone, we needed a gun. Albert said he could get a pistol, but we needed a car. That's how at midnight on a Tuesday, we strolled down the street with a dent puller trying to murder a man. Not wanting to steal a car from our neighborhood would take alleys we shouldn't until cops chase us across 8 lanes of freeway and backyards. To get away, I ran in a canyon and a field of cactus. The needles ripped my clothes, left spiked fruit behind my knee. With a knife wet under a garden hose, I cut away skin and spines. With arms around my boy's shoulders, we walk home. But only I see God. It was the Lord from his La Jolla gates, the big white man in the sky, hollered at me. In pale distance, an omniscient beard in sky clouded with open azure. No murder this night for you, nor any night for you. Only a hot bath and a plate of papas fritas from a grandmother's hands, and 4 hours of needles shooting from the skin and holding the faucet like a gun. The second poem that I'll read from Hustle is entitled The Only Mexican. So when I left San Diego, I moved to Houston to go to the University of Houston for a doctoral study program. And as I would come back to visit um, my family is from Southeast, and we had a family home there, and my family was tearing it down, and I was working and helping them rebuild it for my grandfather. And so I'd come home from doing PhD work and teaching, and be throwing on, my Dickies and construction boots, and you know, banging hammers and picking up nails and such. I wasn't very skilled, but I was helping. So this is called The Only Mexican, and it's about that time. The only Mexican that ever was Mexican fought in the revolution and drank nightly, and like all machos, crawled to work into work crudo, letting his breath twirl, then clap and sing before sandpaper juiced the metal. The only Mexican to never sit in a Catholic pew was born on Halloween and ate his lunch wrapped in foil against the fence with the other Mexicans. They fixed old Fords where my grandfather worked for years. Him and the welder Juan wagered each year on who would return first to the Yucatan. Neither did. When my aunts leave, my dad paces the living room and then rests like a jaguar who once drank rain off the leaves of cecropia trees, but now caged, bends his paw on a speaker to watch crowds pass. He asks me to watch Grandpa, which means for the day. In town for 2 weeks, I have tried my best to avoid this. Many times he will swear, and many times Grandpa will ask to get in and out of bed. Want a sweater? He will ask the time. He will use the toilet, frequently ask for beer, about dinner, when the Padres play. ¿Por qué no novelas? About bed. He will ask about his house, grandma, to sit outside. He will question while answering. He will smirk. He will invent languages while tucked in bed. He will bump the table, tap the couch. He will lose his slipper, wedging it in the wheel of his chair. Like a small child trapped in a well, everyone will care. He will cry without tears, a broken carburetor of sobs. When I speak Spanish, he shakes his head and reminds me he is the only Mexican. Here's the last poem that I'll read from Hustle. It's called Forgetting Willie James Jones. Willie James Jones had just graduated from Lincoln High School. At the time, I was going to Morris High School, and he was murdered. And I spent a long time trying to come to terms with that murder, and just thinking about it, and how difficult it was for me. And some of my friends who were from Morris had been murdered in retaliation. Willie James Jones had gotten murdered, or shot, and as a bystander. But I was very frustrated that my friends were ignored in large, and Willie was not. So it took me a long time to sort of come to terms with that. So I wrote this long sequence about that. So 1, it's not water to want to swallow harm, though many of us have, and changing the name of Ozark Street to Willie Jones Street won't resuscitate, won't expose how the sun roars across rows of faces at the funeral for a 17-year-old boy, won't stop the double slapping of the screen door against a frame, causing a grandmother by habit to yell out, "Willie!" It can't deafen the trophies in a dead teenager's room. That day in '94, I felt strong. I walked down the streets with nickel bags of weed in the belt loops of my Dickies and a bandana strung from my pocket. That's when I thought trouble could be run from, could be avoided by never sitting with your back to the door or near a window. I swore by long days and strutted along a rusted past, shook dice and smoked with the boys that posted on the corners, and men cruising in coupes built so big they took up both seats. I rode with them that summer. That was the season death walked alongside us all, wagging its haunches and twisting its collared neck at a bird glittering along a branch. Willie was shot in that heat with a stolen pistol in the front yard of a party. It poked a hole no bigger than a pebble in his body. The shooters came from my high school. We sometimes smoked in the bungalow bathrooms during lunch. A few weeks before Willie got shot, Maurice had been killed. And awning after rain, Maurice and Willie sagged from the weight. Some say it's better to be carried by 6 than judged by 12. Some say the summer of '94 in Southeast San Diego was just another summer. Now I'm going to read from Post-Traumatic Hood Disorder. So I'm going to read a basketball poem. This is end one. At 21, I went to college primarily to play basketball or to try to play basketball. I was already the father of two. Had a son at 17, and another one was on the way as I started. And I'd moved around a lot as a kid, and I went to, just for high school, Crawford High, Claremont High, Morris, as I said, and then graduated from Mount McGill adult school. So I bounced around a lot, and I went to Southwestern College for junior college, and then I transferred to San Diego State to get a bachelor's, and I got a master's at SDSU too. So yeah, this poem, it's a basketball poem, so sort of spans that whole time because that was the one constant. End one. Look at the homie. Even when in a gang, he came home to crack Nietzsche, beyond good and evil, will to power, believing everybody dies at 24, not seeing a future in pump faking, even then. You ever tried to read philosophy high, gone to the hole and hoped for the foul, wished only to finish? After rolling joints in 2 zigzags, after an hour of starching pants, he transferred trolleys and buses. He's going places. Look at homie, trying to fix himself. Thinks out of repetition comes variation. It takes a lot of effort to look like you're not trying. It should be an airball to go to college at 21, the father of 2, just to play basketball. When most folks say they want to change the world, they mean their own. So I'll read one more poem from here. I think that I will read. I'm going to read. I'll read this one. Found fragment on ambition. 5. If a hood is a sense of place, and a sense of place is identity, then identity is a hood, and adulthood is being insecure in any hood. A hood scares the whitest folks. Why folks scared to stop in the hood, and why folks stop wearing a hood and call it white nationalism. If I tried, I would fail to pass. If I failed, I would try to pass. When can I retire my bowl? Stop needing to beg for my personhood. You see, academically, my ghetto pass was revoked. Please, sir, can you direct me to the window to turn in my man card? Where can I apply to enter the whiteness protection program? I've lost my found. Identity is a hood. A hood is a sense of place. A place places a hood in us. And for the last poem that I'm going to read something that's new. It's again based in Southeast. So this is called trap music. So those that don't know is a subgenre of rap popular right now. Trap music. Wet Charles dropped by the homeboys in his busted high-top burgundy chucks. Hand out for $1 or $2 from us young bucks, also rocking chucks. Trying to cop a couple ends for a few gallons of gas or diapers for his newborn daughter. Wet Charles could spin into splits, quick to say he never begged, traded, or borrowed anything he couldn't first steal. The highest point in many homes is the attic. The jester's hat jingles. The dope fiend's pipe rings. Is it the fire or the smoke that makes a comedian? Even when I mad dogged Charles, telling him to kick rocks with them ashy as hell chucks, I never actually looked into the stones of his eyes. I had known him since childhood. We all had, before he began chasing a rock up and down a hill, stoned every day. Think of addiction as never being able to find your phone. We were not embarrassed by Charles, but by what we might one day become. The way bigger sand tiger shark embryos feed on smaller embryos in the womb, we served classmates we joked with in gym. Dropping out of high school my senior year is what a sentencing judge called circumstances. We never understood why the police chuckled circumstances as a reason for harassing us when we stood in a circle smoking on the block. Charles didn't dozen about dope, just surged in the circuit looking for ways to get high, biking from the trolley to the four corners of death, the intersection of Euclid and Imperial, Green Cat Liquor, Real Taco Shop, the gas station, what was Huffman's barbecue, where the only constant were entrepreneurial young men setting up corners in front of constantly changing businesses with hastily painted front windows, where the persistence of the sea in Chicken Shack could still be seen on the glass door of the new no contract cell phone store. Archetypes have a way of warming into beauty. The flaw is the small writing of a hero. Through what crack did Orpheus sneak a minute fire from hell? The sweet chemical scent of someone smoking rock in a broken light bulb is a plasticity I can't forget. I didn't pay any mind the moralism in Nancy Reagan's eggs or Dare commercials of the 80s. As we went most of those dampened days lighting something or other, listening to the mercurial philosophies of Ice Cube, Wu-Tang, Spice One, or Sugar Free. We smoked water or what a hip toxologist might nasally call angel dust. You can be full of agua and not well. If you're not careful, time will find you a fiend. I'm told that rappers name themselves now with Lil or Young, followed by randomly chosen abstractions. Lil G, Young IE, back in the stone age of hip hop in the early 90s, late 80s. So the stories go. Rappers went into the kitchen and whatever they had milk and honey of Voila, they had their stage name. I was just an empty, scattered wrapper on a sidewalk in the city. That's how I became Slim Jim, though that was more about stealing cars than beef. The first time I got jumped, I was kicked so hard in the face, I found my beanie 5 feet from me. In the Navy, they call that taking your lid off. We'd spend summer evenings at the wooden roller coaster in Pacific Beach, never going on the ride, but circling the beautiful boardwalk that was only slightly less majestic than the older homie's forever primered glasshouse convertible with 3 tall white walls and 1 ever-altering spare. Everything was so gorgeous in the back seat of that Impala. The moon so brilliant in the sky. It was quite the shiner. I'd watch the women around my way rub petroleum jelly on their forehead, then their cheekbones before a fight. Taking off your golden earrings does not make hearing the truth any easier, but that water made the bass and elasticated cadence of Pocket Full of Stones even more resonant as we waded the highways home from the roller coaster with a trunk full of 18-inch box speakers rattling our bodies. 6 16-year-olds in the cramped back seat of a Datsun wagon trying to release our own trapped music. Thank you. Thanks for listening. You can pick up Post-Traumatic Hood Disorder or Hustle at any independent bookseller. It's all throughout San Diego or online. But please do support the indie bookstores. We need them. And thank you. Hope to see all of you soon.
Headlines are everywhere, all day. But for the complete story, count on NBC7 to keep you up to date.
Taking a look at what happens for you folks on the Inland Valley.
And as stories change, our commitment is constant. NBC7 is coverage you count on.
Hello, I'm Jose Cruz. I'm the CEO for the San Diego Council on Literacy. We work with a network of 29 youth, adult, and family literacy programs that annually serve 160,000 residents of all ages at no cost. Our mission is to unite the community to support literacy. It's an exciting year for us. It's our 35th anniversary. It's also the 5th anniversary of the San Diego Union-Tribune Festival of Books. The San Diego Council on Literacy is a beneficiary of this event. So when you participate, you support literacy, especially through the author panels and just in general. So when you participate in this event, you also make it possible for another person, a child or an adult, to improve their reading and writing skills so they can read the books that you read. We have our favorite event activities. We like the Storytime Hour, and you probably have your favorites too. So we hope that you'll join us at the San Diego Union-Tribune Festival of Books and learn more too about the work of the San Diego Council on Literacy by going to literacysandiego.org. Thank you.